Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to bring you the ultimate in-depth guide for patch 1.1.1 for my necromancers out there. Now with this, I hope to bring you guys everything you need to know to make the perfect builds in patch 1.1.1. We're going to be going all over the changes they just released yesterday on August 2nd. So with that, let's jump right into the video and I'll see you there. Alright, now let's get started here, taking a look at the Diablo 4 patch notes which were just released yesterday. Now I did make a quick video going over all of the changes in the patch notes just very generally. I left the class specifics out and went over all the big changes. I'll put that in a card up top and I'll put that in the description down below if you want to check that out. Now like I said, this video is going to be focusing on Necromancer changes only. And the reason I'm talking about Necromancer is that is my class. That is my bread and butter. I love Necromancer. That's what I've played this entire season. I have some other classes, but I haven't really been focusing on them nearly as much as my Necromancers. So let's jump into this and tell you like what I kind of think of the patch, what they've changed, what's now possible with the changes to the different aspects in the Paragon board, and overall what we can do and what fun things we can make hopefully in the next few days. So taking a look at it, we're going to jump right into the Necromancer specific changes. And we start off with a skill, the enhanced Bone Spirit skills getting a reduced cooldown reduction from 6 to 7 seconds. Now overall, this isn't a huge change. Bone Spirit isn't a skill that was really used at all. But overall, this is a good change overall. I mean, it's basically just a very small buff to give this skill a little bit more utility. Now, as we come down here to the Paragon board, this is our first big change, where we have the Wither Legendary board. Willpower requirements for bonuses reduced from 50 to 40. Bonus damage per 40 willpower increased from 2.5 to 4%. Now, to get a better idea of this, let's take a look at the actual Paragon board. All right, here we are on D4 Planner just to get a quick look at the Paragon board. And as we can see, here is the Wither Legendary node. So your shadow damage over time effects have a 5% chance to deal 50% bonus damage each time they deal damage. This chance is increased by 1%, and bonus damage is increased by 2.5% for each 50 willpower you have. So basically, how this is going to work is what they are buffing is the bonus damage here. Now, they're also reducing the amount of willpower it takes to get the bonus damage, which is a nice little change for the Paragon board, not as many points. But the big bonus is the 2.5 going to 4%. Now, this is going to be a very, very big change for our damage over time effects. With corpse explosions and stuff like that, there's a lot of ways that you can build this. And this is really nice considering that we actually saw a small nerf to corpse explosion this patch. And so hopefully this kind of makes up for that and maybe even makes it a little bit better. I'm definitely going to be trying out some corpse explosion builds. Right now in my builds, I'm using corpse explosion, but more as a secondary, put it on there just to do some extra damage with the auto cast. But with this, maybe we could have corpse explosion as more of a feature in the build and more of a main focus. So that's definitely something I'm going to be testing out over the few days. And if I find something absolutely crazy or anything fun, I'll definitely share it with you guys in a video for a build guide. So with that, let's move on to some other stuff for the Necromancer. All right, getting started here with the legendary aspects, let's first take a look at the aspect of empowering Reaper. Now this, before the patch, wasn't an aspect that was pretty much used by anyone. It could be used as a placeholder for a little bit extra damage, but overall it is not best in slot by any means, really, for any class. So let's take a look at it now. Damaging enemies with Sever has a 10 to 20% chance to spawn a pool of blight under the target that deals 20 to 60% bonus damage. This effect can happen once every 3 seconds. Now, this isn't horrible because before the patch, what it was is that Sever had the 10 to 20% chance on a critical hit, meaning that you had to crit for it to even be possible. So now it's just on any hit. But the thing that it makes it a little bit better, you're going to proc it more often. But the thing is that the damage 20 to 60%, that's not that great. Even if you put it on a two-handed weapon, 120% bonus damage on a perfect roll, it's not multiplicative in any way. It's only additive damage. And so it's really not that strong compared to the other aspects that we have in that slot. And so looking at this, like, yes, it's better, but I still don't see it being used in any maxed out perfect build. Like really, I only see this having a place as maybe like a placeholder until you get that perfect aspect that you're wanting. Like, yes, it will give you increased damage if you're running a Sever build, but it's not something that you're going to have carrying into the end game past, level 70 or 80. So overall, this is a good change to it to make it a little bit better, but it still doesn't really have a relevant spot in the current meta of D4. Now let's take a look at our next one, the aspect of exposed flesh. Now this was actually a really interesting change because as you can see, the lucky hit up to a 10% chance to generate 30 to 50 essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy. Now let's take a quick look at what it was before the patch. So here we can see what it was before patch. So looking at this, lucky hit up to a 10% chance to generate 30 to 50 essence, so that hasn't changed, when hitting a vulnerable enemy with your bone skills. So basically, this is actually a pretty cool change that I like. They're basically giving this aspect more utility because used to this would only work on a bone build, you know, a bone spear build, a bone spirit build, something like that. And that's where the only place it would work. But now this could be a place in all of our other classes. Like for instance, the Sever build that we were talking about earlier, it uses a lot of essence. Like it is very essence starved. And this could definitely help it now that it's not a bone skill specific anymore and it can be used for all of them. Because one thing that's really nice is all of our build, or all of the enemies in a lot of our builds are always vulnerable. And so that's just a nice, good 10% chance to generate, half your essence almost in those builds. So this definitely could see, I could see this putting this into a Sever build. And actually that's something I'm kind of working on right now. As soon as the patch drops, I'm getting everything ready. I'm trying to make an absolutely insane Shadow Sever build with no minions. That's my goal for now. But with that, I actually think this is a really good change. It's going to give it some more utility, and it's going to give us a chance to make that Sever, Shadow build, or any build that uses vulnerable a lot better, especially if they have high resource drain. Now, taking our next one, aspect of decay. Now, before it had a 20 to 40% damage increase, and now a 25 to 45% damage increase. Overall, it's just a straight buff, and I'm super happy with it. I actually use the aspect of decay in my build that I'm running currently, so this is just a straight buff for me. So if we want to take a look at the aspect of decay, so here we go, taking a look at the aspect of decay. Each time the Shadow Blight key passive deals damage to enemies, it increases the next Shadow Blight's damage within 10 seconds by 20 to 40%, stacking up to 5 times. So again, this is a buff to that Shadow build that I'm currently working on, which I'm super happy about. Shadow was already super strong and they're just buffing it, which I am very happy about. I think Shadow could have the potential to be the strongest build now in the game once this patch goes live. I'm going to be trying to create that, so if you want to see that really cool Shadow build, stay tuned, and I'll make sure to get that out as soon as the patch drops. Now, next we have the aspect of Torment. Essence regeneration increased from 20 to 30% to 90 to 170%. Now, to get an idea how the aspect of Torment actually works, let's take a look at it. All right, here we go. Taking a look at the aspect of Torment, critical strikes with bone skills increase your essence regeneration by 20 to 30% for 4 seconds. Now, this, in theory, sounds good. 20 to 30% essence regeneration on a bone build. Bone builds need a lot of essence. You're constantly using bone spear, so overall this looks pretty good. But when you actually dive into the numbers, it is increasing your essence generation from 3 essence generation per second to 4. Because with the amount of willpower that Necromancers have, the 20-30% just really wasn't enough to make it worth it. There were better stuff in that slot. And so increasing it to 90 to 170 is definitely going to make this a lot more viable and help with that essence regeneration. Now, one pattern I've noticed this patch is it seems like they're really trying to help with essence regeneration, which I am very glad about because that can be one of the most frustrating things to happen in the game is if you have a build that's super strong, but you have to take a break after every single mob you kill because you have to let your essence regenerate. It's really frustrating and it just makes it not fun to play. You want to be able to go and just kill enemies, have constant essence, and it's fun that way. And it feels like they're actually trying to address that problem, which I'm super happy about. It seems like they've actually been taking some feedback from the community on that one. Now this I definitely think will have more of an impact in the game, the aspect of Torment now, and I think you'll start to see it on a lot of the Bone Spear builds now. And finally, to wrap it up in the legendary aspects, let's look at Hulking Aspect. Legendary category changed from resource to utility. Chance for Golem to reduce its cooldown increased from 1 to 4 to 2 to 5. Chance for Golem to spawn a corpse increased from 0.5 to 2 to 1 to 2.5. Now these are not massive buffs by any means, but let's still take a look at the aspect and see what's actually going on here. All right, here, taking a look at the Hulking Aspect, your Golem has a 1 to 4% chance to reduce its active cooldown by 2 seconds, and a 0.5 to 2% chance to spawn a corpse each time it damages an enemy with a normal attack. So basically what we saw here is just an across-the-board buff to both roll chances. So basically increasing that to 1.5 to 4.5, to 1 to 2.5. Overall, this is a good change. Now, this isn't really going to affect me as I don't use the Golem in this game, and I don't use it because I don't like the way it's designed. Overall, the Golem is a great idea, but it shouldn't take up one of our ability slots on our skill bar. With that, we just lose so much DPS not having an active skill there that the Golem just isn't worth it for me, even using a summoner build. And so for this, like, yes, it's a good change, increasing this damage, making this aspect a little bit more relevant, but overall, I think they need to do something with the Golem beforehand. I think the Golem would be a better change than the aspect. I think they need to actually go back to the actual core mechanic of the Golem and figure out something a little bit different. You know, maybe it could share that skill ability with the other summons. You know, every like 30 seconds, you can activate it using the same ability as your other summoner ability. I think that would be a lot better. I think you'd see a lot more people using the Golem, and overall just a lot more people happy with the summoner builds. So that's my 2 cents on it. Of course, you know, if you guys agree, let me know in the comments down below. And overall, that is going to wrap up the legendary aspects for the Necromancer. Now, as a whole for the legendary aspects, I'm pretty happy with these changes. I think they're going to really make some builds a lot more prevalent in the upcoming season, especially this like Sever Shadow build. It seems like they're really trying to push shadow damage. And my theory on that is because I think it's easier to fix shadow damage in the shadow builds than the other builds in the game, as the Blood Mist builds and the Necro and the Summoner builds, excuse me, can be really hard to fix, especially with, you know, pet AI and like all that stuff. I think this was an easier fix for them to tackle first and get it out there and maybe get a class that people were happy with. And I'm fine with that. You know, if they found, you know, if they thought they could get this done, but they couldn't get the other ones done in time, I'm totally okay with them, you know, going with the Shadow first. I think the Shadow builds were already one of the strongest builds in the game, and so the buff, I think, is just a win in all, especially with the increase coming to boss damage and the increased mob density in Nightmare Dungeons. This is definitely going to help with all of that, clearing faster and getting through those Nightmare Dungeons with more XP. So now let's take a look at the next section. Next, we had a small change to the Greaves. Now, the Greaves of the Empty Tomb. The Intelligence affix was replaced with bonus movement speed. Overall, I think this is a great change. Any movement speed bonus we can get to the Necromancer, I will gladly take. That's one of my least favorite things about Necromancer is you feel so slow. And now I know you can run like an Infinimus build and you fly through stuff super fast. That's just not my style. I don't find it fun. I want to be able to play like a really cool like Shadow Assassin build that just does crazy damage. But the one problem with the Shadow build is that it's so slow because it doesn't have that baked in movement speed from those blood skills. So overall, I'm super glad to see some bonus movement speeds. I don't use the Empty Tomb Greaves, but if I did, it would be a great change. Hopefully to see some more bonus movement speed stuff in the future to just make Necromancer a little bit more fun to run around with. And now let's take a look at minions. We had a pretty big change to the minions, which I'm sure everyone is super excited for. I know I am. So Balrog, the world boss, will be doing less fire damage to your minions, and the elite affixes. Now this is absolutely huge. Fire Enchanted, Electrified Obelisks, and Shock Lance will no longer be doing as much damage to your minions. Now right now, you can have super tanky minions, and these affixes will still one-shot your minions, which was broken. You could spec a ton of life and a ton of defense into your minions, and they would still get absolutely wrecked by these affixes. I'm super glad they realized and addressed that it shouldn't be like that. And there's also some changes in this patch that weren't originally on this. They actually made an error when they released this, and that is the changes in the removal of certain modifiers in Nightmare Dungeons, one of them being the cold aspect. Now this is going to be huge because cold aspect was a pain to run with minions, because cold aspected mobs could just absolutely destroy your minions. Now that doesn't mean there won't be any cold aspected mods in a Nightmare Dungeons, it just means that the modifier that means every elite has one will be completely removed. So that is gone, thank goodness. They did remove a few others, but they don't really affect the minions as much. The main one was that cold modifier. Now there were some gameplay fixes to Necromancer that I just want to go over real quick. Now this isn't some huge stuff, but there was a little bit of a hidden nerf here in this where there was actually a problem with corpse explosion. So we're going to go through here, see what's changed, see what it affects, see if it helps us, hurts us, what's going on here. So fixed an issue that caused more blood orbs than intended to be active at the same time. Blood orbs now function like crackling energy in that they cap at 30. So I personally did not run a blood orbs build, I never have, so this doesn't really affect me, but it seems like there were more blood orbs being active than they really wanted to, so this technically could be viewed as a very small nerf, I believe. I don't think it's going to really change any builds, but overall this is a little bit of a small nerf to those running blood orbs. Fixed an issue that guaranteed overpowered attacks from the Wrathman's Vigor Key passive were not benefiting from the Paragon board node Bloodbath. Now overall, this is going to be a slight buff to those running the passive and running the legendary node, as it looks like they weren't working together as intended, so this is overall going to be a small buff to that. Fixed an issue where the automatic corpse explosion cast from the sacrilegious Malignant Heart power could ignore the damage reduction effect from the power when using unenhanced corpse explosion. Now this sadly is a little bit of a nerf, which I'm a little bit sad about, as I was really looking forward to use Corpse Explosion in my Sever build. I'm still going to use it, as you can transform it into a Darkness ability, but overall it is a little sad that we got a little bit of a nerf. But with the changes to the Wither aspect board, I think the changes there overall way make up for the damage lost here. It's a little sad, but overall it's okay. So I'm not too worried about this. I think it's going to be fine. You know, it was a bug after all, so it needs to be fixed. I mean, I guess they could have made it a feature, but overall it did need to be fixed. Just a little bit sad about it. Next, we have fixed an issue where the untimely death aspect only increased overpower damage on the blood lance that was cast and not other lanced targets. So overall, this is going to be a small buff to the blood lance build, as it looked like it was not working correctly. Now, this could be actually a pretty nice change, as blood lance is becoming more and more popular. People are trying to use it. They're sick of running minions and shadow. They want to dive into those blood skills, as really we haven't had a meta blood build really yet in the game. It's still a little bit behind everything. You know, Infinimist is the closest to a meta blood build, but really you're just using Blood Mist and that's not it. We want to be using some blood damage abilities, and Blood Lance looks like it's going to be the next one to do that. So overall, small buff here to definitely make Blood Lance a little bit more effective. Fixed an issue where the Decrepit Aura Malignant power was equipped twice. The power with the lowest number of near enemies required to activate was not the one that would trigger. So this was a bug going on with the Decrepit or Malignant power, and basically it was kind of annoying that this was a thing. If you had two of them equipped, it wouldn't use the one that was better, it would be using the worst one. But overall, it seems like they fixed this small bug. I don't think it was affecting too many people, and it wasn't the biggest deal, but I'm still glad that they fixed it nevertheless. Fixed an issue where shields held by the Necromancer would cover their face in loading screens. Now, I had never had this I've never had this problem. I don't use a shield in any of my builds, but that would be pretty annoying to block your face with a shield, so definitely glad they fixed that. Then they fixed an issue where the Necromancer's imperfectly balanced passive could only have 1 point allocated to it. Now, this was a really annoying bug, especially for those Bone Spear builds, as the imperfectly balanced is a really strong passive for Bone Spear. Basically, you could only put 1 point in it. It would not let you put others no matter how hard you tried. It just wouldn't do it. So now they fixed that. You can do 3 out of 3 now, and it will increase the damage of your Bone Spear builds, and overall, that is a good change, as this was completely busted. And then finally, they fixed an issue where the Decrepit Aura Malignant power wouldn't trigger when mounted. Now this I have seen quite a bit. So when you're running around and the Decrepit Aura is the one that spawns little aura that basically decrepifies all enemies within that aura. And if you're riding around in the open world on your mount, it would not activate. And I thought it was designed like that. I didn't know it was actually a bug. I just thought, okay, it doesn't work when you're on your horse. Okay, that's fine. It looks like it actually was a bug. So we're actually going to be able to run around on our horse, decrepifying everyone that we want to. That's kind of cool. It's a cool little change. It'll make hell ties a little bit more interesting. You can slow them as you go. Maybe, they won't hit you as often off your horse. That's a nice little change. And it'll be cool to try, and maybe we'll have some fun and some laughs with it. So with that, that is going to wrap up the in-depth Necromancer guide. I hope all of you enjoyed. I hope all of you, have a good understanding of the changes. I'm really going to work hard on making some really cool and innovative builds in patch 1.1.1, and I am super excited with these changes. I do think overall they are for the better, and they're going to make playing Season 1 a little bit more fun. So with that, thank you everybody for watching. If you want to help and support the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Peace out.